Coach for life. Zoom.com today. Meet happy with Zoom.
At O'Reilly Auto Parts, we'll help make your auto repair, maintenance, and restoration projects easier. So if your car isn't stopping like it used to, our professional parts people will help you find the brake parts and supplies you need.
Morning, everybody.
The first time. Now for a limited time.
Yeah. Microphone check.
Hey, there we go. Whoa.
Better parts, better prices
Okay.
every day.
Now that was a major echo.
You got a major echo.
Too.
Major echo.
But it doesn't bother me as long as it's not coming through the show.
Right.
Respiratory diseases. Wash your hands.
I just go one earphone. I'm good.
With people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth.
Testing 1,
Stay
2.
home when you are sick. Cover your
My good
cough
side or my bad side?
household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
KXSP North Las Vegas, KXTV HD3 Pahrump. Broadcasting live from the Finley Chevrolet Studios. Home of the... Your home for Los Angeles Dodgers baseball and the NFL. CBS Sports Radio 1140. A radio.com sports station. We've got your Raiders covered. Knock on wood if you're with me. It's Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140. And now, here's your host, Scott Gulbransen.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas. Hope you're having a great weekend. Hot weekend. Most parts of the country. Las Vegas, of course, is no exception. 108, 109 today. But we certainly appreciate you being here with us on CBS Sports Radio 1140. By the way, you can stream it on the radio.com app. Make sure you do that. Also, we are streaming live in Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and on Twitch. So if you want to watch us, you can come into the bunker studio here, which is known as my den/studio, as well as join me and my co-hosts, your boy Q and Chaz Osborne, as we talk Raiders football. Don't forget, check out silverandblacktoday.com, Las Vegas's only independent news source based in Las Vegas, covering the Raiders. It's been slow, but make sure you check out all the great work up there. We always are updating it and able to do that. On today's show, a couple guests we want to talk to you about. We're going to talk a lot about the Raiders and television. That's right. It's about, hey, how are you going to watch the Raiders? We might not be able to go to games in person, so TV becomes even more important, right? Because if you're going to see your beloved Silver and Black, you got to be able to watch them. How will you watch them? Ryan Young from Yahoo Sports will join us. He's been on the show before. He's going to talk to us about what's going on with the NFL. Remember, the Sunday ticket deal with DirecTV, it's kind of been locked into DirecTV. That deal ended, or it was up for renewal, and so we'll find out the latest on where you might be able to watch the games streaming and all of that this year. So he'll answer questions and tell us what he knows. In addition, in the first hour, we're going to talk, in the second hour, we're going to talk Bryan Salmond from Channel 3, News 3 here in Las Vegas. They signed a deal for exclusive content with the Raiders here in town, like all the TV stations did. But Bryan's one of those guys really just tied into the entire sports scene in Las Vegas. We're going to talk to him about how does the Raiders being here now impact local television, how you're going to watch it, and how it's changed the market. So we'll talk to him as well. In the first hour, very fascinating discussion I'm excited for, which is about the fact that we're going to talk about no fans in the stands. Nobody wants that. We don't know that it's going to happen. I wrote this week on silverandblacktoday.com that I had 4 NFL sources tell me that, listen, not going to happen. They just don't believe there's any scenario that has fans in the stands, even though some of the teams are saying 20%, like in New England, and same in Baltimore. They're telling me that, no, it's not going to happen. So we're going to make the assumption that let's say there's going to be no fans. We're going to talk to Eric Niiler. He is a scientific and technology writer for Wired magazine. He did a story on the impact psychologically to players of playing with no fans in the stands. He also talks about referees, believe it or not, the impact, which is a very sore subject for Raider fans anyway, as we've talked about the bias with the Raiders and officiating. So we'll talk to him as well. So we got a full show. We're going to talk about all the news. We'll talk about training camp. And to do that, as always, I bring in my 3 pals, my guys who really just help me anchor this whole thing. Of course, your boy Q and Chaz Osborne. Good morning, fellas. How you doing? Look at Watts Raider says he sent us a donation on YouTube, $10 because of Q. So Q, I'll sign that check over to you as soon as it comes in.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, man. It's about time that your boys starting to get some ends, man. Make some bread on the side. I like that. Shout out to Watts Raider. Appreciate the love, my man.
Yeah, you gotta love that. Chaz, how you doing, man? How's the coast? You're cooled down while we're
heat over here, man. Sad to say, I'm coming back to Vegas next week. Hopefully, training camp started. We can get some stuff going there.
We'll work on getting Chaz on here in a second. But Q, listen. So this week we watched kind of with bated breath what was going to happen between the NFL and the NFLPA. And we hear a little bit here, a little bit there, and where the give and take is happening. Then we had an announcement late yesterday, and it was reported that, look, the NFL has, per the collective bargaining agreement, say, hey, okay, training camp starting 28th. I had been told that it might move to mid-August, but then something changed. Somebody gave a little in the negotiations, and now it looks like we're going to get to camp on time on the 28th, with maybe the rookies even getting in there this week.
Yeah, I expect the rookies to get there a couple days early, but it looks like everything is a go. And from a standpoint of, we want to see NFL come back, we want to make sure that sports are back. We want that. That's a good positive step. Now everything is going to be brand new water. We're going to be treading through brand new water every single day, and training camp is going to be so much different than what we've been accustomed to seeing, and the players are going to be in a different world. It's all going to look different. It's all going to sound different. It's all going to be different, but it is a positive step that it looks like training camp is going to get started on the 28th for every team across the league.
Yeah, and that's important because, just people want to get back. They want their sports back on the field, so to speak. And so to me, that is a good thing, because I had been hearing the opposite. And of course, I'm glad that things change. And again, I think that's because there's some give and take there. And it's one of those deals where, hey, look, we have to negotiate the players, because we had a lot of people with questions about why was it that they didn't have to go to camp, and why were they negotiating? Because everybody said, well, they have a collective bargaining agreement. Yes, they do, but you're talking about a global pandemic, and so things go out the window. And because of this extraordinary circumstance, Chaz, and with health related and all this kind of stuff, they really had to figure out, okay, how are we going to get people back safely and then get out there? And now it appears that the deals are happening behind the scenes, and the players and the owners are getting closer on something.
We hope that the deals are getting done behind the scenes, right? I mean, we've been talking about for 2-3 months how the NFL is kind of sitting back. They've had plenty of time to take care of all these things, and I fully expected them to go into these meetings. We were talking last Sunday about it. I expected Monday these meetings that the NFL would just be overloaded, right? They have plan A with a contingency, with plan A, plan B with a backup plan for plan B, just like overly prepared and have it all done within a couple of days. And now they're not even answering basic questions. So it's still a little bit of wiggle room there.
No question. And to me, that's the thing. And I was this is a point of discussion I had for this first segment, which was, it's shocking to me because all along this process, we've talked about it, guys, about the fact that the NFL had a distinct advantage. Their season was not interrupted. Yes, off-season workouts and those types of things were, but their season was not interrupted, meaning they didn't have to cancel games. They didn't have to do that. So they sat by March, middle of March is when kind of the shutdown and all this stuff happened. And suddenly it was like, hey, you know what? They're in a good spot here because they get to take their time and do things thoughtfully and do things the correct way. Now, you had all that time to come up with something and to get ready and maybe talk to the players in advance. And I'm not saying, because I don't know for sure, I'm not saying that didn't happen, that there wasn't some player interaction and if there was discussion before that and what's going on. But the NFL, to me, guys, it should have had its act together a little more.
I mean, it should have, but again, it's so, like I said, unpredictable. Nobody really knows exactly what's going on. And, we saw the whole thing with Major League Baseball and the NFLPA where they couldn't come to an agreement. They couldn't figure out exactly what they wanted to do, how many games they were going to play, the money. We didn't know what was going to happen, and we knew those negotiations were going to end up happening between the NFL and the NFLPA. We just didn't know exactly when they were going to start and what they were going to talk about because ultimately, man, I mean, out of all the sports that are out there, this one I feel like is the most difficult to actually get going, but just because it's I mean, you're hitting. It's a physical sport. I mean, you're on top of everybody. I mean, there's no way to social distance. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, it's just a different animal than trying to be in a bubble in basketball or not be on top of each other on a baseball diamond. I mean, it's just different. And so it's going to be really difficult. And we all assumed, and I'm guilty of it myself, I assumed that once they said, hey, the NFL is a go, the players would just be like, all right, cool, let's go. No problem. Let's put on our helmet and go play. But as we've seen over the past few weeks, that's not the case. And there's a lot of players concerned about their safety and their family safety.
Right. And that has to be, paramount. I think as much as us fans and, of course, the media here that we're covering the team, we want them to get back at it. It gives us something to talk about, get excited about. But at the same time, you're right. You have to protect it. We saw the opt-outs. Now, part of the negotiations we're being told is about opt-outs for the players, how that impacts their contract. We've had a lot of questions. I've had a lot of people DM me this week on Twitter saying, hey, what if a guy is a free agent after this season and he opts out? Is he then a free agent? Those are the types of things they're working through. And you got to be respectful of that. I mean, if I'm on the player's side, I get it. I get the fact that, hey, look, okay, if I opt out for health reasons, are you not going to pay me? Is it now I'm on the non-injured list, which means they cannot pay you? So to me, Chaz, that's the thing. And I mean, you worked in the NBA, the NBA, a players league too, very, very focused on player safety and making sure everything's good. On this one too, from the players' perspective, with all due respect to the fans, they got to protect their interests. They got to protect themselves and their family.
Absolutely. Priority number one. That's what I talked about on the show last week, was kind of like, what are the negotiation? What's the language going to be going forward? Like you said, the exempt list, is it like a concussion protocol where they come back after 1 game, 2 games? They're going to expand the practice squad. There's so many things they have to write into this new language for this new contract to make sure everybody's happy. And like I said last week, the players are taking all the risk here, and so they absolutely should have the leverage, and they should be a loud voice in that room, and they should be getting complete coverage and complete protection throughout all of this. So the NFL seems to disappoint me every year. There's something big like this comes up, and and you feel like the NFL just kind of drops the ball. But ultimately, they always get back on the field and they always have a great product. So we got to believe that that's what's going to happen again, and they will have the player safety first and foremost.
You know, there should be no IR this year. You know, there shouldn't be any of that because you're going to need as many players as possible. I mean, you're going to need guys. There may be a week where your tight end room is affected and 4 guys all of a sudden go down or 3 guys go down and they're out for a couple of weeks. I mean, I think these rosters should be, you know, large. And if you have a guy that goes out, he's out for a couple of weeks, cool, but he can come back. I think the whole IR and being out for the season or designating only 2 guys, I don't think that that's going to fly. I don't think that's going to make a lot of sense. So I think a lot of rules that we'll see put in place this year will be just for this year only, and then move forward, and then maybe be able to move things back. But just like one of our messages on our the chat line here, it says this is going to be a very strange season if played. Everything's going to be strange about this season.
Right. What I was talking to Scott about too, as well, is with the COVID, you can kind of change around a lot of things, and some things that you didn't have in place before that maybe you wanted to have in place. Well, now you have a great excuse to do that. So if you can make things better and just say, hey, we're doing this for this reason or that reason, and you can kind of circumvent maybe whatever kind of process they had to go through before with all these meetings and red tape. Now they can just say, hey, we have to do it this way for a certain reason and get it all done and get it all done right. Now we have the perfect excuse.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And the thing for me too is, the good news is they're going to go to camp, right? We weren't sure that was all going to go down. It was going to happen. I was told maybe mid to late August instead of that late July timeframe. So now that we know that it looks like, barring some last minute change, that they're going to get into camp on time, which is a huge thing for the start of the season, in my view. So that's good. And then that's the thing we're going to talk about when we come back from the break here in about a minute, which is, listen, they're going to go into camp. Great. What are we going to know? Like, for example, we know that we were talking before we went on the air about media access. A lot of the media access may be virtual, meaning we have Zoom press conferences and we have that. There will be some media allowed in at certain times, and it's going to be tiered, is what we've been hearing from the Pro Football Writers Association, all of that kind of stuff. But that changes the dynamic. For example, you have young players, you have players that just came into the system. How do you know how they're going to be performing? Are we really going to know till they step on the field with a preseason canceled going right into the regular season, or if they have one preseason game? It's going to be harder to evaluate. So to your point, Q, about the fact that the roster is being expanded and all that, I think they're going to have to do that because the teams aren't going to have the time to evaluate like they've been able to do in the past.
Yeah, exactly. I think that there's a lot of guys that might step up and all of a sudden really shine, because they're needed. Like I said, we don't know when a guy's going to go down. We don't know when a guy's going to get infected. We already know that football is you're one play away, but now you're also dealing with this COVID-19 that nobody has any idea. We could all say that we have an idea, but none of us have any kind of a clue of how it's going to actually roll. So there's going to be a lot of, I think, different looks as far as rosters go. We might not even see guys huddling. I mean, think about that. You might see all the plays called in directly from the sideline, and you might never see guys huddle. I mean, we just don't know. Everything is going to be different about this year.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. When they're having like the quarterback meetings, I think it's quarterback meetings because what if all 3 quarterbacks get COVID? One of our favorite places.
Chad, hold up, buddy. We got to go to a break. We'll come back. We'll pick it up right there. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
Hey everyone, it's the Playmakers. And Lindsey Brown. We want you to
All right, guys, in video, you should still be able to hear us. So sorry, Chaz, had to cut you off, man. We were late for the break.
No, I forgot. I didn't look at the clock.
That's okay.
But right, I mean, what are the quarterbacks going to have to stay 10 feet apart? What if all 3 of them get it?
Right.
No, you're right. It's one of those deals where those are the kind of questions to Q's point earlier in the segment. It's like you don't know what's going to happen, so you just have to kind of set up rules that give them the most flexibility that they can until you're able to do that and figure it out.
Right. Also, what Q's saying, like we've kind of had the blueprint. We're watching MLB, we're watching hockey, we're watching NBA. Like, kind of try to figure things out. So they should have an eye on that. They should have an eye on the medical profession telling us what's the right thing to do. And they should have had it kind of sort of figured out.
Yeah.
It feels like they don't.
On many of your favorite Toyota models. See your dealer for more information or visit Toyota.com. Offer ends August 3rd.
How's the sound?
We're getting feedback on your sound being not good, but we can't help the fact that you're remote right now, so we'll have to just deal with it.
All right. I mean, I don't have to talk much either. You guys
it's the echo and the stuff. Shawshank, hey fellas, shutout from Virginia. It says shootout, but I'm going to assume you meant
shootout. Shout out.
It's Virginia, man. I think that's I don't know if it's an open carry state or a concealed state. Which one?
Yeah, it is.
Heard the 49ers said they are delaying camp. Maybe. That's why I keep people saying, oh, the Chiefs said they're going back to camp. I said, that doesn't mean anything, because if the players don't show up, you don't have a camp. And if the player association isn't ready, then they're not going to go back.
Yeah, but you got to think about this new CBA as well. The new CBA is it's very owner friendly. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
All over the world.
Bonjour. Ni hao. Привет.
Exposing it to cyber threats.
Well, that's no good.
So how is Chuck able to sleep? Because he knows Norton and LifeLock are now part of one company.
I'm gonna buy you back in there.
Thank you, buddy.
LifeLock provides an all-in-one membership for your cyber safety that gives you device security, identity.
Oh, and I can hear the station on the video.
VPN for online privacy,
Yeah.
and more.
Do you want that?
Prevent all cyber
You know what? During the breaks, you can cut off the station.
is your
You
guide
not
to
can you or
today's
can you?
world.
No, you'd have to cut it.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to mute everything.
Sign up today for Norton 360 with LifeLock and save 25% or more off your first year by going to norton.com/news. That's
Let's see.
norton.com/news for 25% off.
CBS Sports Radio.
You found the most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gulbransen.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. I'm Scott Gulbransen with your boy Q and, of course, Chaz Osborne, and we're talking Raider football. First segment, we talked to kind of about the news and about camp being on. At least that's what they're saying. So we're going to take that good news. But here's the question we want to talk about this segment, which is, okay, so the Raiders go to camp. But it's sort of the question, like, if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it happen? The point is, we don't know. We're not going to be able to see, for the most part, Raiders camp. There's not going to be fans there. We know that's not going to happen. Limited media. So there will be some cameras out there, but they're not going to show you a lot. You're not going to see a lot of play unless the Raiders, who I've heard are going to do some very fan-friendly video work to bring some of the camp to us. But guys, let's talk about this because, there's a lot of question marks with this team, a lot of excitement around this team. I'm excited about where they're going, what they did in the draft, and so on. But how are we going to know how Damon Arnett's progressing? How are we going to know how Jonathan Abrams coming back from an injury and how they're gelling as a team with all these new pieces, guys, if we don't get to see it?
That's a great question, and I don't think that we're going to actually have any idea of how well these guys are gelling because we don't know what we're basing it off of. You know what I mean? It's such a weird state and it's such a weird time that we're in. I don't think that you're going to see these guys start to gel until week 3, week 4, week 5 of the regular season. I think the biggest goal for the training camp is to make sure guys get through it healthy and get there available. I think that they're going to really slow play it. I think that they're going to, tread very lightly. I don't expect them to go hard to paint. I don't think that they're going to think that they're week 1 ready by the time week 1 comes around. I mean, especially with 1 preseason game, 2 preseason games max. I mean, you're not going to have time to gel. And so for a team like the Raiders, especially on the defensive side of the ball that has a lot of newcomers, they're going to have to gel during the game. And that's never good. I mean, Chaz, you know that. It doesn't matter if you're playing basketball. It doesn't matter if you're football. I mean, you at some point got to be one cohesive unit. So they're not going to be able to get that, preseason training camp cohesiveness. They're going to have to get that during the regular season.
Yeah, building that synergy is huge. Getting everybody on the same page and working for that one goal. And like to your point, Scott, I guess we're just going to have to trust them. They're going to do the Zoom meetings. They're going to put out maybe some video content. And they're all going to tell us that they're playing great and everybody looks great and everybody's on the same page. So to your point, if we can't go over there and see exactly what's going on, and we're not, we're only seeing the video content that we're putting out, and we're on Zoom meetings with coach and whoever after the practice is talking to them, it's usually all good, right? Like when I first started scouting, we used to get the agents would send us a video, and I remember seeing JaVale McGee and thinking he was the greatest basketball player I ever saw because it was just a highlight video, right? So that's kind of what we're going to get out of training camp. Just a lot of highlight videos.
Well, and that's the thing. That's what you're going to get. So my point is, I think, the media does a great job of kind of giving us an objective point of view. I know some of you will argue that you don't think that a lot of the media that covers the Raiders are objective, but I think the beat writers and everything are, and they do a great job. So to me, being able to get a little bit of that, and then us being there too, because we've been covering this team for 3 years from afar. They finally get here, and now we can't go every day like we thought we could. Especially for me, I live 2 miles from the practice facility, so it's like right there. I can see it, right? But for that point of view, you have that objective point of view to say, hey, listen, of course, the Raiders, they need to be positive all the time, and they're going to give you that story. They're going to say, oh, everybody's doing great, everybody's coming together really well. But to have eyes, independent eyes, to say, look, here's what we're seeing. We're just not going to get that Q. And I think, look, it is what it is. Everybody's in the same position. But at the same time, I think it just means that when time comes to play on the field and week 1 kicks off, it's just Raider fans and some of us in the media are just not going to have as good of a grasp on how things are going based on that limited availability.
Exactly right. And that's the good thing about the Raiders and the offensive side of the ball. The Raiders have so much players coming back on offense. They have so much continuity on offense that at least will be pretty much on the same page. Now, I know that they got some young guys. They have, Lynn Bowden Jr. They have Brian Edwards. They have Henry Ruggs. I get that. But they have a lot of players that are returning that know John Gruden's system. So that, I think, is going to be ahead of the defense. And the defense is just going to have to try to hurry up and get all on the same page. That'll be the biggest thing. At least half of the side of the ball, at least one side of the ball is all on the same page for the most part, and they can bring the rookies on, slowly. But besides that, man, I think they'll be good to go.
No, and that's what I was going to ask you though, Chaz. Being around a team, working in the NBA for as long as you did, and seeing it first half, being in that gym all the time, there is that chemistry piece though. You could have all the talent in the world, but to get those guys on the same page, and we heard it from Nick Kwiatkowski last week on this show, right? He said, listen, the Zoom meetings, all that stuff is great. We're getting along really well. I'm getting to know the guys, but it's not the same. And until you get on that field, you just don't really know how it's going to be and how cohesive they can be.
Right. And Q brought up the point a few weeks back about the cohesiveness or whatever percentage of the team that's coming back. And the Raiders are in the higher up of those kind of teams. Kansas City Chiefs have a lot of the guys coming back. But you see it with Shaq and Kobe, I guess is a good example. You got, 2 of the best players and you just add nice pieces around them. But if they're not getting along, it's right out the window, right? They're not going to be winning much if they're not all on the same page. So these guys all seem to be, like we talked about, they're getting inked up. They're all out doing things together. They all seem to like each other. They all seem to love playing for Coach Gruden. So they're all on the same page here. And we've got a lot of guys returning, so really just need to add a couple pieces here and there. They get those new pieces on the same page, and it shouldn't be that much of a learning curve for the Raiders as it will be for other teams that have new head coaches, quarterbacks. A lot of new people coming into these positions.
Well, and we talked about it Thursday. Evan and I did a live stream here to talk a little bit about camp and things. And one of the things we brought up, guys, was and we wrote a story on the website a couple weeks ago about it, which is the veteran flavor of the team. It's going to be very important to have veterans there. So you have young guys. Some of these young guys we're all very excited to see play, like Arnett, like Amik Robertson, and returners like Josh Jacobs and Max Crosby. You love that those guys are working hard in the offseason, and a year 2 guy versus a rookie, I think is going to be a big deal this year, Q, because you just don't have that time. You're going to have to rely on veterans a little more. So I would tell fans, in my view, and tell me if you agree, Q, I would say, listen, if you don't see Arnett out there right away, starting every down, don't look at that as there's a problem or that he's not progressing. It's just time and repetition.
Right, which is exactly why they brought a guy like Prince Amakamura in. You know, I mean, they brought in veterans that can hold down the fort until those rookies are ready to go, and that's a good thing. I mean, they were able to bring guys in that at least have been in the league, have been in an NFL game. They know exactly what they're doing. Now they're in a different scheme and they're playing for a different coach, but at least they've been there, done that as far as veterans go. And again, it allows the rookies time to get in there. Just like Bryan Edwards, a lot of people are very excited about Bryan Edwards offensively. I think he's going to slow play into the season. I think Tyrell Williams will be a big factor. Him being healthy will be a big factor. And then at some point, Bryan Edwards may end up being a guy that takes over. And, you know, you can say the same thing with Damon Arnett. You can say the same thing with Amik Robertson for LaMarcus Joyner. I mean, you can see almost the pecking order. You know what I mean? You can almost see where, okay, this guy can slide in when ready, when need be, but they're not going to force them onto the field because they have to, because they were able to go and do some good things in the offseason to pick up some veterans that will come in key positions.
No, our good friend Fabian, and Fabian, we hope you're feeling better, man, and that you're off the meds. But who's working out with DC? You know, I've been out there. I was out there a half dozen times. Now they're moving practice all over to different fields because people have found them, and I don't blame them. But I saw veterans out there. I saw Alec Engold. I saw rookies out there. So there's a wide swath. All the guys who are already here in Vegas, it's a list of probably, 20 or so players that I know of. There might be more. But if you look at the social media for those guys, you can see who's working out here in town, including some of the wide receivers. You saw Zay Jones was early out there. So there's a bunch of guys out there. And I think, look, even though they are informal practices, the fact that they're just getting together is going to be big for them, because it's just, again, about building that rapport, about making sure that they're just getting on the same page and running some of the same plays. For those rookies, especially, if I was a rookie, I'd be out there. And for the most part, the guys that they drafted are all out here, and they're all working with Derek Carr and working with trainers and stuff like that to get prepared for the season. So you have to like what's going on there, Q. And I just think that if you look at the way this team's put together, look, there's going to be some struggles. We saw earlier there, our viewer Valerie Pickard said, hey, listen, a lot of the rookies might not play till after the bye. I think they'll have to play before that. But I do think that the number of reps will be controlled very closely.
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't think you're going to see them just thrown into the fire and all of a sudden they're, like Josh Jacobs was, where he was a key cog last year. I mean, you knew that right away, immediately, that Josh Jacobs was the dude. I don't think you're going to see that happen this year, just because, again, they're learning the offense, they're learning the team, they're learning how to be in the NFL, how to be professionals. They had no OTAs, they had no rookie mini camp, they had nothing. So, I mean, when they get in training camp and actually start work, that's when they're going to get their, time on the grass. So they really are going to have to catch up quick, fast, in a hurry. And it just doesn't happen like that. It's all about repetition, man.
Yeah, no, you're right. And we'll see how it all bends out. But all right, we're going to step aside for the bottom of the hour break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking with our guest, Eric Niiler from Wired Magazine. Do the fact that fans may not be in the stands, does that affect, I should say, the Raiders on the field, and does it impact how referees see the game? We'll check out next. You're listening to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
The Dodgers are
Be
back.
With a fly ball to deep right center field. It is on its way, and Muncy has walked it off.
Thanks, Eric.
Yep.
Yeah. Whoa.
You getting a lot of feedback, Q?
A little bit.
Okay.
Dodgers opening day is July 12th.
Like halfway through our conversation, all of a sudden, I came into my ear and I started hearing myself really, really loud. I was like, whoa. Now I don't hear anything, including Chaz.
Double, triple.
There you go.
So Q, I think what's happening, and we'll figure it out after the show, is I think for some reason you're hearing StreamYard.
As you get back to business.
Yeah, because if I mute it, I can't hear anything.
Right. So like if I'm going to mute it right now. So the thing is, like, Chaz still has both on, so we'll figure that out. And then Q, you have StreamYard on. You're hearing the station though, right?
Yeah, I can hear the station. I can mute Clean Feed and still hear the station.
Yeah, because you're hearing it through StreamYard.
You're hearing
Yeah. So should I do that?
You should, yeah, because you need this to mute StreamYard.
If I mute StreamYard, I hear nothing. Like I can't hear anything right now at all.
And right, but then if you turn it on, so that tells me that clean feed somehow is not coming through because
Okay, now you're back on.
Are you monitoring? Are your headphones into your Rode or directly into your computer out?
Directly into the computer.
That's weird. It should be the opposite. You should be hearing out of your computer. You should be hearing clean feed, but that's weird.
So
sorry.
If I mute clean feed, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Like right now, you can still hear me.
I can hear you on the video.
Hi, Derek.
Hi, this is Trent with CBS Sports Radio Las Vegas. How are you?
Hey, good. Good to be here.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, Graham. I'm bringing Scott now. Make sure you hear him. Go ahead, Scott.
Eric, hey, appreciate you being on with us and taking the time this morning.
Hey, Scott. Thanks for having me. Great to be with you, and look forward to chat.
Awesome. Okay, we'll be on the air here in just a couple minutes. Thank you, buddy.
Okay. Yeah.
Your time is important to you, so it is important to us too. As a business owner, you want to spend your time focused on growing your business, not on dealing with red tape. You can safely leave that to us. At Pro Group Management, we focus on ensuring that you have the best workers' comp plan for your business. Our team of experts keeps up on all the regulatory issues and compliance updates, so you can spend your time growing your business. For self-insured groups, Pro Group Management is the leader.
I got every page.
Businesses with reliable.
I can see my sound is very good.
And we have the awards to prove it. Find out how to have Pro Group Management work for you. Visit our website at pgnnv.com.
This laptop's got a bunch of
free
pop-up
savings analysis
crap.
now. That's pgnnv.com or call our Las Vegas office at 702-740-4380. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
For muscle pain, body aches, to strains, Blue Emu Maximum Arthritis. It works fast and you won't stink. Its unique formula with emu oil penetrates deep to relieve arthritis pain, sore muscles, joints, and more.
The My Bariatrics
Stand by, here we go.
300
Okay.
this morning at 11:30 on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Appreciate you guys being with us here on your Sunday as we roll through the latest and greatest news about the Raiders and the NFL at a time that, of course, is unprecedented with COVID-19 and everything happening and all the negotiations that are going on between the teams and the players. So what does it all mean? We know that there will be no fans at training camp, right? We've been told that already. But what about games? We're hearing, too, that as part of the negotiation to protect players, to protect fans, that we may end up not having fans at games. What is the impact besides all of not being able to go see your team play, which stinks in its own? What psychological impact may this have on players? And by the way, how does it impact referees in the NFL? Does it change the way they call the game? Does it change anything? Well, we're going to bring in someone now who's worked